on the Progressive Radio Network.
I feel this feeling in my heart. I know she knows when it's true. I know she'll tell me where to start, and I trust my heart enough to follow through.
Hello, welcome to Community Currency. I'm Carol Brouillet, 2010, and with me is the author of 2012, The Awakening, Bill Douglas, and I'm very happy to have Bill on the show. I must admit, he wrote a novel, fiction book, and I just opened the cover and thought, well, I'll check out the first few pages. I really don't have time to read this, and I just was entranced by the book, and I devoured it in one setting. It was very impressive, and it mixes some scientific studies with fiction, and it's hard to actually gauge, what is true and what is imagined in the book. And I'm very happy to have Bill on the show to discuss some of the very interesting ideas that you bring out in the novel. So welcome, Bill, to the show.
Thank you, Carol.
And I think people should know a little bit about you, because I think you've tackled such an amazing topic, and you have such an unusual history. Bill is one of the founders of World Healing Day, and he's also a Tai Chi master and has written books about that and also about children, but you never really intended to be a writer. It just happened. Do you want to just tell people a little bit more about how this novel happened?
Well, I've spent 30 years studying mind-body technologies, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, and meditation. As well as being a political and issue activist, for me it's all connected. The liberation of consciousness and the liberation of society and the planet. And so I liked fiction that had something to say about society. And so anyway, I ran to my computer and I started, writing down this story that this Ravi character had to tell in my head. And the first 3 chapters just poured out, and then all of a sudden everything stopped, and I just kind of let it go. It became just one of those files in your computer.
When did that happen? How long did this novel take from the first inspiration?
Yeah, this was about 5 years ago when I first started jotting this down. And then about a week later, about 3 o'clock in the morning, all of a sudden my eyes just kind of flew open, and I realized that this Ravi character was a young woman. I had cast him as a young man. Mm. And once I realized that Ravi was a woman, then this novel just poured through me. And within about 3 weeks, I had the gist of the novel. Now, it took 5 years for it to become a rip-roaring, page-turning novel with all the factual elements that you had referred to before. Because it has environmental research, consciousness research, the machinations of raw power in the world, and all these kind of things. Are factual elements that lead into chapters. Mm-hmm. But the gist of the story just roared through me in about 3 weeks. And so here we are, 5 years later, and it's taken, 5 years to create, what you sat down and read in one afternoon.
Well, thanks for putting so much time and effort into it, because I made
those things. And I think what we're called upon as human beings at this time in history, which is a critical time in history, which, of course, the novel, points out, the heroine, Ravi Shyamalan, points out again and again, is that we're at a point where we need the liberation of consciousness for our own health and well-being so that we can face these dark machinations, so that we're able to look into the dark heart of our society, because by unearthing those aspects of society, it will help us move into this new world of possibility, which I believe is just hanging like a ripe apple, just waiting to be picked in the form of renewable energies. And, new technologies are there. They've been there for quite some time. And so, it requires us to look into why aren't those things being developed. And so the novel explores those things.
Well, also, I don't want to give away everything. I think people should read the book. There's this monetary incentive which trumps everything else, and there's a real struggle in the health field over this.
Right. Yeah, in 2012, The Awakening explores that as well as, this pharmaceuticalization of society, and especially children, ADD and ADHD and all that stuff. And there was a study that came out of the University of Miami School of Medicine a few years ago that showed that Tai Chi profoundly helped teenagers that had ADHD reduce their, ADHD symptoms. And so it's like not only can these techniques, help reduce some of these health problems or reduce the need for over-pharmaceuticalization of our society, but at the same time, they, as we were talking about earlier, they broaden the consciousness, so they make them more effective citizens and voters and visionaries of possibility, no matter what field they're in, because they think in more broad swath, multidimensional ways of, how things interact and overlap. It's just, and this novel touches a bit on it, but my next novel, which I'm working on right now, Conspiracy of Spirits, I call it an environmental spiritual thriller, and it really gets it digs deeply into the whole issue of renewables and green technology, and talks. It's been amazing. I've looked into so many things as I've written the novel about renewables and how I just found an article recently which fits so well into it that I ran and put it in there right away. But British Columbia, the western province in Canada, has adopted a really aggressive renewable green energy program to help stimulate green energy technology and industry in British Columbia, which is where Vancouver is. And what they have done is they have almost added 10% to their employment figures just through the implementation of green technology. And so, you stop and think about that. The United States unemployment rate is less than 10%. If British Columbia boosted their employment by 10%, we're looking at a potentially zero unemployment society if we embrace these things. So there's like a multidimensional aspect to these solutions, where they not only relieve, hundreds of billions of dollars of, health, but they dramatically increase your employment, and then they dramatically reduce the food and transportation and housing and everything, because free energy energy costs are a part of everything that we pay for. Right. And so, the multidimensional aspect of these solutions is both very frustrating because it's not being realized, but then on the other hand, it's extremely hopeful.
Yeah, right. And part of it is just recognizing the shadow and overcoming the shadow on an individual basis, but also on a collective basis. And I think one of the most interesting, parts of your book is the media aspect of it, because it's like trying to get it out to a large number of people. That is the biggest challenge that all people face when they're trying to get out information that is really threatening to that shadow side of the power structure and the